Welcome back, Banger fans. It's your host, Sam Astroth, and I'm personally super excited for this week's review, as it's someone who I just got to meet in person after more than 10 years of being a fan and getting to work with them on my solo music over the last couple of years. As you can see, he produced my song Dualism. This week, I'm reviewing the newest album from one of the pioneers of the aggro-tech genre. It's Donobashes. Shit sounds dark as fuck. That was the vicious and sinister sounding lead single, Unhedonia, from Donobashes' latest album, Reopening the Scars, which dropped today, April 19th, on Metropolis Records. Donobashes originated in Los Angeles, California, back in the year 2001 by Christoph Bathory. The band's literal name means the beginning of the end. Currently, the band consists of Angel Nightmare on guitars and synthesizers, Croc on drums, Kara Souls on electronic drums, and Behemoth on keyboards, and of course Christoph Bathory on vocals. Donobashes has broken musical grounds across multiple genres, from aggro-tech to terror EBM to melodic black metal to industrial to extreme metal during their 23-year career. Generally sitting in a unique hybrid of dark electro and industrial metal styles with increasing amounts of dark atmospheric moments in recent albums. Fusion of terrifying soundscapes, a mix of eerie, brutal, evil, sometimes painful, sometimes memorable, overall a relentless mix of sounds form the foundation for the lyrics of Christoph as he explores concepts of horror, anti-monotheistic religions, misanthropy, as well as negative aspects of the emotional abuse. So how does Reopening the Scars measure up to Donobashes' 10 plus full-length albums, multiple EPs, and even a split album? Well, let's find out. I will say this right off the bat, this album is not a brain-dead easy listen and not for the faint of heart, perhaps, as it takes lots of attention to understand the various different transitions between song styles to vocal style changes to compositional shifts. Requires you to experience lots of emotions, which I'll mention more of that later, and demands patience from the listener to fully appreciate the depth of this album, as the pacing of this album overall is slower than some of the more extreme metal or melodic black metal or upbeat aggro-tech albums of the past, but actually drawing inspiration from all the aforementioned sounds I talked about, along with Christoph's solo albums and his dark ambient side project Void Stasis. You get to experience all of that in one album. Like I talked about in my last point, the album has lots of atmospheric passages, the culmination of which all comes together on the nearly 9-minute epic, The Hollowing. This album has songs like Lifeless and Misanthropy, which is literally a nearly 7-minute long ambient track. So if you don't have patience for stuff like this, or just listen to this one song from the entire album, you definitely are not going to get what this album is about. But if you do have the patience, then trust me, I usually don't have a lot of patience, making mostly under 3-minute songs myself. I can be very trigger happy with the next song button, unless of course this album makes me feel something. Well, good job, Donobashes. You managed to hit me in the feels with this one, as it brought up some pretty dark memories of my childhood trauma, of near-death physical abuse I experienced, and a lot of adult-age emotional abuse. No worries, Banger fans. I'm good. Thanks for therapy, I'm all good now, but holy fuck, the album's atmosphere definitely brings out some of your darkest emotions, especially if you read the lyrics. As you heard from earlier, the album's opening track, Anhedonia, this album starts off in a vicious, dark, and twisted manner with the song's literal meaning being lack of interest, enjoyment, and pleasure from life's experiences. That is quite the morbid subject matter, and combined with Christoph's hellish cries of agony and the album's overall theme, it sounds like a personal journey into one's mind where all your nightmares are real and you are experiencing them all at once. As in this album's case, over the course of the hour, it is really like you're watching a horror movie where someone completely loses their shit and slowly their mind summons their worst and deepest fears into reality. This is not cheesy horror. This is more like being completely sober, not running away or trying to escape your problems, dealing with them head on, and basically paying the price for the consequences of your actions type of horror. With all the grotesque and realistic horror vibes in this album, you can really feel the dark emotions Christoph went through during the writing process of this album. Knowing him quite a bit more personally over the last few years, I've seen him gone through many life changes, and he's a super talented musician and basically a one-man writing machine when it comes to songwriting, but that doesn't save one from feeling life's trials and tribulations. When you listen to the album front to back, you are taken through a wave of emotions between the dark ambient tracks to the hard-hitting, heavy ones, to the ones with sadness, to moments with a little bit of hope. I feel for a lot of you banger audience, metalheads, and alternative people in general, and many musicians and artists, life is not always the kindest to us, and for being different or trying to be ourselves, we face criticism and discrimination, and at times it may seem like nothing is really going our way, but as long as there's a little glimmer of hope, we can still keep fighting for what we believe in. Where there's pain, there's pleasure. I'm not sure if you heard that before, if you agree with that, but if you think about it, whenever you feel down, you usually listen to your favorite band or try to find something new that fits the emotion we're feeling. So with that said, as dark as this album is, this is probably the most uplifting song on Reopening the Scars. Probably my favorite song on the album. It's not too intense, not too ambient, kind of atmospheric with lots of build-ups, and during the drops, it just hits the sweet spot where during a rainy day, the sun comes up for just a bit, enough to make it worthwhile to get up the next day and chase your dreams. Even if it's going to be full of challenges, just like how some gym heads will tell you there's no pleasure without pain, there is no true excitement without experiencing some form of misery. So we live on for those moments. Throughout the 10 songs, Christoph Bathory flexes his songwriting skills and creates a dense and diverse listening experience that takes us through many different emotions while weaving through the dark and twisted world of Dawn of Ash's latest album. Therefore, I'm giving Reopening of Scars a solid 4.5 skulls out of 5 here on Overkill Reviews. First up, I got one of my frequent musical collaborator bros from Texas at Sadzilla's nerdcore side project. It's called Sanbroku, who just released their debut album, One Last Wish, on March 22nd independently. The album consists of 8 tracks, all themed after Dragon Ball Z. What's a really cool, unique thing about the Sanbroku project is every single song, whether it's themed after Dragon Ball Z or Naruto or any other anime, the songs are all originally written and sung by Sadzilla. Then he uses AI to modify his voice to sound exactly like the English voice of the anime character he's singing about. As you may know, with the recent passing of Dragon Ball creator Akira Toriyama, if you're a huge fan of anime like me, you might really like this album. Second up, I bring you the over-the-top symphonic death metal band, the Monolith Deathcult, with their latest album, The Demon Who Makes Trophies of Men, which dropped on April 5th on Human Detonator Records. The album consists of 8 songs of symphonic death metal savagery akin to the likes of Septic Flesh, along with, interestingly enough, some periodic moments of, I guess you could call it parody perhaps. The music is super well composed and gives the vibe of Septic Flesh or bands like Fleshed Out Apocalypse, mixed with some of the hilariousness of Austrian Death Machine. Lastly, I got the one-man project Gost, not to be confused with Ghost, with his latest album Prophecy, which came out on March 8th on Metal Blade Records. I got to review Gost last time here on Overkill Reviews with their album Rites of Love and Reverence, which was one of the first time he really started doing vocals on his album. After that album, he scored an 8-bit video game soundtrack. It's really cool, called The Texorcist, where you play a priest and you have to exorcise demonic spirits. If you're a fan of OG video games, you might enjoy it. The 13 songs within the album has plenty of atmosphere, a variety of instrumentals between dark wave to industrial, metal, noise to boss battle music, and a mix of vocals between gothic singing and black metal screams. So Banger fans, what did you think of the latest Dawn of Ashes album? Leave me a comment below and let me know.
Turn it on,